Again, for your grace to us, that we could be here tonight. And Father, help us to exponentially be able to step up another level. And I think, Father, you're understanding what you have for us tonight and putting it into action will be, if anybody here decides to actually hang on to this in a real way, Father, I think and it's just really trying to figure it out myself and take myself to bigger things personally, Lord, that you know it, Lord, is prompting this entire thing tonight. So I pray that you just help us and strengthen us in Jesus' name. Amen. So I talked to the team this evening before we started about what is our purpose, okay? And I want to share some thoughts with you for a couple of minutes about that same process. And I want to make a statement first. No person will ever become bigger than their purpose. Okay? You can't be bigger than your purpose. All right? And problem is most of us don't ever even identify our purpose, and so we don't have something to rise to, or we just kind of founder trying to do the best we can in this. You have to become goal-oriented in your life if you're actually ever going to accomplish anything. And so I've been reflecting on some of these things for myself and trying to determine if I can never be bigger than my purpose, then I really need to understand what my purpose is so that I can be as big as I can possibly be, right? And what is my ultimate purpose? So let me reflect on this way. If a person comes to this meeting and their purpose is only to become free of a certain substance or whatever, that's just such a limiting purpose. But I think probably the vast majority of people that come to a meeting like this are trying to just overcome an addiction problem. But the true power of overcoming anything is having a purpose that you can push to that's bigger than everything else in your life. And so I'm trying to ultimately create, or at least identify, and then pursue in my own life, my ultimate purpose, okay? Because I want to continue to grow as big as I possibly can. So let's just say a person comes in here and they stay for 6 months and they've been sober and they've had some victories and they really feel like they're free of their addiction problem and they have accomplished that purpose. Have they really done all that much? Not really. They have accomplished what they set out to accomplish, but that person is very likely to be back here again because they never went bigger. They didn't shoot for something, in essence, big enough because there are so many things that are bigger than that. So I began in my own mind to think like this. Okay, so what should be my purpose be? Should I try to be the best dad in the world? Well, I could be the best dad in the world maybe, and let's just say that I was able to accomplish that. That is a great thing to do, but do you know how many things I would leave behind by becoming the greatest dad in the world? I might be the greatest dad in the world, but my kids might not have any food on the table. Do you understand what I'm saying? If I made successful business, my purpose, I may make successful business, but I may sacrifice my family in accomplishing that purpose. Do you understand? And so there's so many different struggles and purpose. And so first and foremost, I want to challenge you with this. First and foremost, don't make your purpose being in this meeting overcoming an addiction. That's so small, okay? And every person is worth much more than just simply overcoming an addiction in their life. And I think what happens is that is the goal that so many people set, and but you know, there's so many bigger things. And so if that's just your purpose, I hope you gain it, but more than likely we're going to see you again, okay? Or you may not ever get there because you're not shooting. I want to shoot past all the peripheral stuff and find a real, true, powerful purpose in my life. If your purpose is something like, I want to satisfy myself, okay? You may be able to do that, but that's going to take you down a lot of dark paths more than likely. And you'll ultimately crash and burn because that's not really a good purpose. Satisfying your own self is, really not a very good purpose, and it leads to massive levels of destruction. So what is our purpose then? And what is the greatest of purposes? We're talking about this in our leadership side there for a few minutes. And so I hate to tell you to throw something out that might be helping, but in essence I'm saying this. You need to dump the purpose of overcoming addiction, okay? Because that's way too low, okay? And it's never going to really fix anything. It is bigger purposes that defeat smaller purposes, okay? So if I really want to overcome addiction, I'm never going to shoot for overcoming addiction. I'm going to shoot for something bigger than overcoming addiction. And in the process, guess what will overcome addiction, okay? Now, I was reflecting back on my own personal transformation. And, when God really began to change my life. And I had to figure out and re-identify what was I trying to do that at the time where I really began to turn on the levels of success in my life, what was my purpose? And then once I identified that, I was like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? I used to have some better purpose in my life than I do even now. And I need to maybe reflect and regroup and go back to some of those original purposes. And we discussed it for a few minutes in our leadership meeting tonight. So we were talking about Job in the Bible. Most of you, I'm sure, know about the story of Job. And Job was a good man. And he was doing everything right. And he couldn't understand why all the things that were happening to him. He lost his entire family. He was the wealthiest. He was the greatest man. The Bible says he was the greatest man in the East. And so that entire, the area of the Middle East, he was the greatest man alive at his time. The most wealthy, the most accomplished, the most respected, everything, greatest man. But in that, he lost his family. They were all killed. He lost everything he owned. He lost his health. He's literally sitting in an ash heap, scratching what we think is a disease called elephantitis, where these big, huge boils were going on his skin, and they would weep. And he's sitting there in a pile of ashes, and can't blame his wife. She's like, why don't you just curse God and die, man, Why don't you just get this over with, right? And then he says that famous statement that we know, which is, does anybody want to quote it for us real quick? Though he slay me, yet will I trust him. But we know that he was holding on to this destruction in his life. He was holding on to God by the skin of his teeth. Because he did not understand it. It's obvious if you read through. We're studying the book of Job right now on Sunday nights. And, when we just lost my sister-in-law, and I cannot tell you the depth of grief the family's going through right now, especially in this untimely situation. And my father-in-law has just been broken by all of this in a sense where you're losing your children before their time. You know what I mean? I don't know that there's anything more anguishing than that. So here's Job, and he is going through this, and he's lost everything, and then his friends show up, and his friends are trying to tell him, no, dude, there's something wrong. You've messed up. And they all try to convince him that he's got to identify this. In Job, he was just missing one point. But that was the point that was trying to be taught to him. And we see this at the very end of the book of Job, because Job he's still questioning. And he gets to the end, and God says, listen, Job, you don't understand. I'm the potter, and you're the clay. And who are you to question what I'm doing in your life? He says, and I'm paraphrasing some of this, so don't crucify me for it. And God says, Job, you got to understand that sometimes my purpose is bigger than anything you'll ever understand. And I said to our team tonight, in the very end, Job had to realize just one thing. And it was so far from him because he did so well. He did so well, but he didn't realize his true purpose. His true purpose was not just to obey God. His purpose was to be able to do anything that God would have him do. That there would be nothing. As long as he saw and knew in his heart of hearts that he could be used for the purposes of God, that would be the ultimate purpose. And so I've been thinking about that for myself, not because of personal tragedy or anything like that. I just want to know what I can have as the highest purpose in my life. And here's what was happening to me in the most important times of my personal transformation, when God really started to just change everything for me. And that was this. I had come to God in a form of anguish in my soul because I could not understand or have the victories in my life that I truly wanted. And I couldn't get them. I was trying to get a hold of them and grasp them and have that happen. I was trying so hard, it hurt. And I couldn't have victory. And frankly, I was getting very discouraged. I was getting so tired of me in my failure. So tired of me. I expected more. And it seemed like the harder I tried, it was just another opportunity to fail. You know? And then when I did that, finally I remember the night. I can't give you a date, but I just remember the night. I was out in the field and I was praying, and I was so frustrated with God. And I threw myself out there, and I was just basically yelling at heaven and telling God, okay, fine. Whatever you want. I don't care what it is. You can have me. And in those moments, I actually found my greatest levels of transformation. And I cannot experience it fully without that thinking. No matter what I do in my life, no matter how long God or how many opportunities God provides for me, I have to be able at the end of the day to know this. God, whatever you want. Whatever it is. We don't have a bigger purpose. So I want to just kind of shorten the trip for you, if I may say it that way. Why not shoot for the purpose that will take you past everything? And look, we'll always get distracted. I do too. I get bogged down. I get worried about people. I get everything. But I have to recircle the wagons and say, okay, why am I here? I got to redirect my gaze. That's exactly right. God, whatever you want. You know what whatever you want tells me? When I'm broke, whatever you want, God. When I'm sick, whatever you want, God. When I'm hurting, it's whatever you want, God. I'm here for you. I'm breathing for you. I'm giving myself to the best of my ability to you. None of us will ever be perfect at it. But do you know how many things I've passed up by shooting for that? I shot past my problems. I shot past my failures. I shot past my baggage. I shot past the disappointments. I shot past the doubts. I shot past the fear. I shot past the weakness. I shot past the strength. I shot past all of it by going for something bigger than anything I could ever be. But in striving for that, overcame everything I thought I could never overcome. Is that just a weird thing? But it is biblical. It's Bible. So Romans 8:28, Brian, do we have it? We know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to His purpose. Guess what your purpose has to become? His purpose. Whatever His purpose is, that's what your purpose has got to become. And I got news for you. You're not just going to overcome an addiction problem. You are going to fly by stuff in your life that will just blow you away. But you gotta become His purpose. His purpose has got to become your purpose. Father, I pray tonight for every student here, Lord, that you could please work in our lives. And Lord, I know this is a big call tonight. It's a big truth. And sometimes we find ourselves with a purpose that it seems like it's too big for us even right now just to take on the small things. And I don't want you to lose purpose in general. I guess tonight the point is maybe to just shift your purpose. Shift your purpose and say, God, you got me. Whatever way you want me. However you want it to happen. But God, I'm going to shift my purpose not from overcoming my problems, but trusting ultimately in everything that you have for me. And I'm going to remind myself of that every day. I'm going to pray that I might be able to accomplish my purpose of your purpose for me. So God, please, I pray that you help each and every one here tonight to do that. Lord, it wasn't, even though that night was something that was individual for me, it didn't mean the struggle didn't continue. Now I had to strive for that different purpose. And so, Father, I pray that you do that tonight. Strengthen us in it, please. Every student here, Father, find a higher calling than just their burden. A higher calling than a problem. A higher calling than a crutch. A higher calling than a feeling. Father, please, I pray, bless them in Jesus' name.